If you're at home, would you please, at this time, mute your microphones so the service can begin. My Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. Oh, my Lord, what a morning when the stars begin to fall. Oh, my Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. Oh, my Lord, what a morning when the stars begin to fall. I'm done with all my worldly ways. Join that heavenly band. Yes, I'm done with all my worldly ways. Join that heavenly band. My Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. Oh, my Lord, what a morning when the stars begin to fall. What a morning.
Welcome, dear friends, and good morning. It's so good to see all of you. My name is Judy Pickett, and I serve on the Board of Trustees as the treasurer of the church, and you'll hear from me from time to time, so be kind. And today I'm your worship associate, which gives me pleasure because I get to see all your smiling faces. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. As such, ours is an active church, and everyone is invited to participate in any of our activities, whether you're a member or not. Please check our website, uutarpon.org, for our calendar, and you can see what's going on. We have a lot. Our children today are with us during the beginning of the service. We have a little baby. It's good. Makes me happy. We have faith formation programming, and the children will be with us until after the story, and then they will be marched out, and we will sing them out to their classes. For those present with us in the building, and we have connection cards. If you are so inclined and you're a guest, fill one of these out, and we'll be able to contact you about other things that are going on in the church. Also, let's see what else. And there are headsets in the bell tower for those of you who might have some hearing issues. We also require all people to wear masks while indoors at the church. We're delighted to have Reverend Kristina Spaude leading the service today, and music is provided by our music director, Whitehurst. Bonnie will be singing throughout the service, and you're welcome. Yay, you're welcome to sing along to the songs. Yay, with your masks on. Again, welcome. And I'd like to take a moment of privilege right now. We have in the congregation today Tammy Taylor, who is our admin assistant, who is no longer our admin assistant. Her last day was on Friday, and thank you for doing all you've done for the church, Tammy. I hope I embarrassed you. We're going to light the chalice right now to start the service. Blessed is the fire that burns deep in the soul. It is the flame of human spirit, touched into being by the mystery of life. It is the fire of reason, the fire of compassion, the fire of community, the fire of justice, the fire of faith. It is the fire of love burning deep in the human heart, the divine glow in every life.
If you would turn to number 123 in the gray hymnal, 123, Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirring in my heart, all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice, roots hold me close, wings set me free, Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our story this morning is The Quilt That Love Built by Judith Campbell. Rachel and Tony were having a hard time thinking up what to do for their church service project this year. I want to do something really different this time, like the project where we sent a cow to Africa. That was so cool, said Tony. I know what you mean, said Rachel. Collecting bottles and cans and cleaning up the park were okay, but I want to do something that really makes a difference to someone. They were sitting together on the big sofa in the family room, the one with the patchwork quilt that Rachel's grandmother had made for the family when they moved into their new home. She had put pieces of all their old clothing and t-shirts into that quilt. Every square in the quilt held a little piece of the family history. Rachel was smoothing the quilt with her hands, and Tony was sitting half under it when that aha look appeared on Rachel's face. Tony, she squealed, we can all make a quilt and send it to the women and children's shelter. You know, the one where the parents help out, where our parents help out. They're always collecting stuff like clothes and blankets. Each kid in our class could make a patch, and then after you and I sew it together, everyone could help with the quilting part. It would be just like the old-fashioned quilting bees I read about in school last year. Geez, said Tony. I don't know. Guys don't sew. You're good at art, said Rachel. And who says guys don't sew? If I can hammer, you can sew. Tony knew he was going to lose this argument. The quilt idea was a good one, and of course he could sew. He just didn't think he would like it. But then he'd never tried it before. How will we get all the pieces? He asked. We'll start by asking people who like to sew to make a patchwork patch that is exactly 12 inches square. If they don't have the cloth and needles and stuff to sew with, kids can just donate and decorate a 12-inch plain square piece of cloth with markers. We'll collect the squares, and then my mother can sew them together on the sewing machine. Then we'll take it back to church, and after we add the stuffing and the backing, we'll do the final quilting all together, just like they did in the old days. Only we'll have pizza and ice cream and... Wait a minute, said Tony. You're going way too fast. What's the difference between a patchwork square and a plain square, and what's stuffing and backing, and where do we get all this stuff? You're a pair of squares yourselves, joked Rachel's mother as she joined the two. I heard you from the kitchen, and I would be glad to help with this. I think it's a great idea. Rachel has a whole plan already, said Tony, and I can't even figure out where to start. I think you should start by measuring and cutting squares out of the cloth in our scrap bag. If you want me to, I could teach the kids how to make an easy 9-patch square, Rachel's mom offered. Then, after we collect the squares, I'll sew them together and I'll show you how to finish the quilt. Thanks, Mom, said Rachel. This will be the best project ever. Do you think we could find out who gets the quilt at the shelter? I don't know. Maybe they'll let us take a picture of the quilt and show the person who receives it. What do you think? I think we should get your scrap bag, said Rachel. I thought you didn't want to sew, teased Rachel further. Well, maybe this once, Tony grinned. Besides, I can do lots of things if I think it's going to help someone. That's the best part. So where's the scrap bag and scissors? Let's get started. And we will sing our children to their classes even though we don't have any today, other than a tiny one. It is hymn number 413 in the gray hymnal.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Now is the time in our service where we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. Ours is a free faith, which must sustain itself financially. You can go onto our website, uutarpon.org, and click the donate button, or you can mail an offering to our office at 57 Reed Street, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34689. For those of you with us in person, place your sanctuary offering into the offering plates as they are passed. And thank you very much.
In preparation for our sermon today, we've chosen number 131 in the gray hymnal to sing together for our offertory song, 131. Love will You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
I forgot earlier, when we introduce ourselves, it is helpful for those with vision loss and others to say some things about ourselves. So I am the Reverend Kristina Spaude. I use she, her pronouns, and am a white woman. I have chin-length, curly brown hair, parted on one side with blue eyes. And here at the church, we are on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. I have 2 readings for you this morning. The first came from Richard Rohr's daily meditation. Minister, ordained UCC, entrepreneur, and author Cameron Trimble sees the decline of church structures as an opportunity to ask questions that matter, to rediscover and renew our faith. She writes, "What is church really about? I've always understood the church as being a community with a shared story in our scriptures, which binds us together. Church is about weaving relationships together so that life for all of us is more deeply rooted in love. Today, I would offer that the church also offers a platform to work together to build a world that acts and advocates for the common good of all of us. We are warriors, lovers, peacemakers, protectors, prophets, thinkers, and dreamers who gather together to celebrate our heritage as children of God. At the same time, we are fearlessly willing to stand up and stand in for those our culture might oppress. When we live consciously aware of our power to shape our world for good, we live lives of meaning. We are our own most fully human and fully sacred expressions. We are whole. We have an opportunity in this moment of our great transformation. We can approach this time as survivors, desperately clinging to our structures and ways of being. Or we can see ourselves as pioneers, setting out in the face of the unknown to discover new ways to live faith-filled lives. The inevitable decline of our structures gives us the chance to let go of what might hold us back from that adventure. Nothing today will be the same 10 years from now. Why not architect the kind of faith movement we want to see 20 to 50 years from now? What do we have to lose? And the second reading is often referred to as Jesus heals a paralytic, comes from the Christian scriptures, Luke chapter 17, I don't remember the chapter and I've deleted it. But verses 17 through 26, One day, while he was teaching, Pharisees and teachers of the law were sitting nearby. They had come from every village of Galilee and Judea and from Jerusalem, and the power of the Lord was with him to heal. Just then, some men came carrying a paralyzed man on a bed. They were trying to bring him in and lay him before Jesus. But finding no way to bring him in because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and let him down with his bed through the tiles into the middle of the crowd in front of Jesus. When he saw their faith, he said, "Friend, your sins are forgiven you." Then the scribes and the Pharisees began to question, "Who is this who is speaking blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone?" When Jesus perceived their questionings, he answered them, "Why do you raise such questions in your hearts? Which is easier, to say, 'Your sins are forgiven you,' or to say, 'Stand up and walk'? But so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins," he said to the one who was paralyzed, "I say to you, stand up and take your bed and go home." Immediately he stood up before them, took what he had been lying on, and went to his home, glorifying God. Amazement seized all of them, and they glorified God and were filled with awe, saying, "We have seen strange things today." What do we owe to each other is one of the central questions of the TV show The Good Place. That question is considered from the viewpoint of all 6 of the main characters and reverberates throughout the series. It is, of course, one of the fundamental questions we grapple with as human beings every moment of our lives. What do we owe to each other? The answer is in our relationships. While Chidi and Janet and even Jason would likely tell you that the answer to this question is everything, it's actually Eleanor's answer to another question I've always found the most compelling for this one, that we try. We may mess it up, we may not know the way forward, but what we owe to each other is that we try, and we keep trying until we get it right. Because it is in our trying, our striving, our commitments to doing the best we can for each other that we might achieve the beloved community. It's the blending then of Chidi's commitment to doing everything and Eleanor's commitment to trying that leads them through the show. Now, if we go back and dig into that excerpt from Luke, we get this rich and also super ableist appearing story to explore. Some folks have carried a man who we might assume is their friend, who is paralyzed, to a home where Jesus is teaching. And it seems clear that the plan is that by doing so, that Jesus will heal him, that he might be able to move as freely as he might wish again. As is often the case when it comes to Scripture, there's a fair bit of speculation possible as we enter the story midway. Eagerly, they arrive to the place and find so many people at this home as one may have come to expect when it came to Jesus at that point. And there were so many people that they couldn't bring their friend close to Jesus. The place was packed, and they couldn't even get to the building as people had enveloped it. They had carried this man all the way here on a bed. And so the question, what do they owe to each other? It seems very much that they love this man, to have carried him to this point, at least loved him in the way we love our neighbors, to provide care and to create access to the world in whatever way possible. And so they have done everything they could. They realize there is but one more thing they must try. And so they tore into the roof of the home to lower the man before Jesus. And yet Jesus' response was not to heal, as we would expect, although we know that he is ready to do so. We are told as much earlier in the passage. Instead, once the man is before him, Jesus instead forgives the man his sins. Sin is a word you UUs don't usually wrestle with, although the answer to the question of how we are forgiven for sins is the same as the question of what do we owe to each other. The answer is in our relationships. Healing and forgiveness come in and from our relationships. The question here is, but is that what Jesus is doing? Is he granting forgiveness, or is he making a statement, observing that this man's sins have been forgiven? As is clear in the passage, the paralysis the man had been experiencing is not connected in any way to sins. He is not told he is forgiven and then stands up and walks away. No, a statement is made. He is forgiven. Well done, friend. You have done what many seek to do but fail to achieve because they stopped trying. So let's look at the relationships in this passage, because the forgiveness of sins has a variety of possible interpretations. Let us hypothesize for now that we find healing and forgiveness in our relationships with ourselves, each other, and with that which is greater than we are. And so if this man who is paralyzed has been so loved that he is carried a fair distance by others to be in a particular place in a narrow window of time in the hopes that he might be transformed, he and they have already done the greatest work we can do. They have built a beloved kingdom among themselves. On the way to bringing this man before Jesus, they have removed all barriers to access that this man had been experiencing to this time, just up to the point where he is lowered through the roof. His needs have been centered and supported in every way to make this moment possible. And he has been brought by those who love him before the person they believe can transform this man, perform one of those everyday miracles Jesus had become known for. But it is in their gathering, their co-creating, cooperating, and faithfulness to each other, that commitment to everything and to trying, that they have together achieved what none of us can achieve alone. Because, folks, however you identify What we owe to each other is found in our relationships, and the answer is that we try everything. In any and every way we hold privilege, it is our duty to be in relationship and to do everything we can to try to make the world a better place for those who are the most vulnerable. Poor people, Black, brown, and Native peoples, women and people with other marginalized genders, LGBTQIA+ folks, disabled people, children, immigrants and refugees, those who have been incarcerated, those who are marginalized and oppressed by systemic racism and other oppressions and devastations of all kinds. In short, everyone who is impacted. Many of us feel like the world has been tossed upside down in the last 2.5 years with the pandemic. We have each been impacted as individuals, and we have also been impacted as a congregation. Congregations were already struggling before the pandemic, and as has been observed many times by many people, the pandemic has simply amplified the shifts that were already underway. Some of us have known that we were on a precipice. In virtually every way imaginable, a seismic shift is not an exaggeration. What we have known to be true about congregational life, the intersections of spirituality, religion, and culture, the American empire and hegemony, the hundreds of years of individual and systemic sins of the past and the present, it is all surfacing, bubbling, churning, preparing for collapse, destruction, transformation. It's all here, and any moment we will find ourselves in the quicksand I was warned about in many movies and TV shows in my childhood. We might imagine this in the bleak, dark, colorless images frequently offered in movies and TV shows. They so often foretell an apocalypse and the devolution of humanity. But such a collapse will create the possibility for some level of better equality and an edge for those who are most resourceful. The possibility that those who are willing to try everything, to carry their friend to be healed, that they are the ones who will be rewarded in their endeavors by the creation of something more beautiful, more whole, grounded in justice, a stranger world indeed. Many of you have come to know that I am an avid and dedicated cross-stitcher. I do it as meditation, as a way to focus, and also because for me it is magical. It is a metaphor for ministry and all kinds of faithful, building, creating work that we can do in this life. There's a pattern and thread, a needle, some cloth, and scissors. And one stitch at a time, one direction and then the other, and on to the next square. The cloth is transformed more into possibility. For a while, it often looks like nothing. Forms are unclear, colors splattered, it's something, but what is often a mystery. And then suddenly the forms become clearer. One stitch at a time, the image begins to take shape. It's less clear-cut of a process than quilting, but the one stitch at a time principle still applies. One stitch, and another, and another. It can be a very slow process. I made a piece that was peacock feathers not long ago. It took 11 and a half months for me to complete that intense work, over 60,000 squares, one stitch at a time. And for a while, it didn't look like anything. My mom asked if I was stitching stripes at one point. Took several months for it to even begin to look like feathers. But that is the work that we are called to do. Sure, sometimes we get to do something and it's big and the impact is immediate, or it might be like the kind of thing where a bunch of people can be involved and something can have a much shorter timeline. Like if you carry your friend to Jesus in the hopes that he might be healed. There's so much work to be done in this world to help it heal, to help us be healed, for things to get better. It can be overwhelming sometimes. I get it. But when we pick up the work, look at the pattern, and start with one stitch at a time, we will begin to make progress. And before we know it, we're starting to see what it will look like when it's done. Of course, work with people doesn't exactly follow a pattern. We have goals, sure, but the process of how to reach those goals and discerning what our goals are requires good relationships with those involved, especially those most impacted. This congregation has a passion for justice work, but one that has been unanchored. Like many progressive, liberal people, we want to save everything and all the people all at once. It is both overwhelming and like wanting to manifest a quilt or a cross-stitch piece from our minds. That isn't how it works. To be most effective and to feel a sense of progress and direction, it is best to choose one item or cluster of items to focus on and begin. I usually start my pieces in the corner and work out from there. Our Social Justice Council has had the wonderful opportunity to get to know some of the work the organization Faith in Florida has been doing. Pinellas County organizer Nick Carey reached out to us and has kept showing up. He keeps inviting us to get involved and has helped us better understand some of the work being done here in Pinellas County. Faith in Florida's work is to reach into the power and passion of faith communities to build a multicultural, nonpartisan network to address gun violence, voter suppression, systemic racial and economic issues that cause poverty for families in our communities. This work extends and includes immigration, mass incarceration, systemic racism, and youth. I will leave it at that for now, but please know that Nick will be available after the service for our forum, and we'll share a bit more about Faith in Florida. We know we couldn't even begin to scratch the surface of any of these issues alone, but together as part of something larger, like in an old-fashioned quilting bee, stitch by stitch, we can work to live into the world we dream about, the world we hope for, the world we want to live in now. We can have an impact on justice seeking today, tomorrow, and long into the future. As Unitarian Universalists, we seek to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people and respect the interdependent web of which we are all a part. And as Unitarian Universalists, we are called to do this in the only life we are promised, this one. knowing that what happens to any of us happens to each of us and to all of us, because we are bound together now and to the past and to the future. It is our job now to practice the kinds of relationships that are so faithful and of such depth that we will do everything we can to give access and support to all of those who do not have what they need. It is our duty to tear into the roof when we need to help create the best world possible. We owe it to each other to tear down the barriers and lift those most impacted. We owe it to each other to try until we get it right, because we will all rise only by lifting each other. If you would please join me in singing our closing hymn, number 121 in the gray hymnal, We'll Build a Land.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like water, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like water, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land, building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like water, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come, build the land, my people we seek. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like water, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Whew, that was close. I didn't think I had that muted. Nobody needs to listen to me sing. I close our services always with these words from Jean Harrison Newyar, who has written in The Gift of Faith. In the lore of ancient China, there's a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this ever widening, ever strengthening, ever liberating path called hope with me.
I'm tired of living so lonely. I think I know what to do. Gonna build a bridge right over the mountain. I will walk right over to you. Look around at our city. Look around out on the street. Got kids looking over their shoulders, worrying about the people they'll meet. I'm tired of living so lonely. I think I know what to do. Gonna build a bridge over the mountain. I will walk right over to you. Look around at our country, at the people that we don't ever see, standing side by side but invisible. They're lonely in the land of the free. I'm tired of living so lonely. I think I know what to do. Gonna build a bridge right over the mountain. I will walk right over to you. I'm gonna pull my shades off my windows. I'm gonna let the sun shine right in. I'm gonna open my heart to a stranger, and I think I know how to begin. I'm tired of living so lonely. I think I know what to do. Gonna build a bridge right over the mountain. I'm gonna walk right over to you. I'm gonna walk right over to you.
Sometimes I wanted to get up there and dance and clap my hands when she was doing that. I don't know what inhibits me. I don't know. Anyway, this is the time we're ending our service, and we extinguish this flame, but we keep the light of peace and love for ourselves and others. May we carry kindness and compassion in our hearts and out into the world. And we hope you found meaning in this service today. I do have a couple of announcements. We'll have a different kind of service on September 4th. It will be a question box service. You can submit questions to Reverend Kristina to answer, and she will do her best to answer them. Is this called Stump the Minister? All questions must be submitted by August 28th for consideration, so she has an opportunity to reflect. See the Connections newsletter for additional information. And as Reverend Kristina mentioned today about Faith in Florida, this is the August Give a Plate recipient. The mission of Faith in Florida is to build a powerful, multicultural, nonpartisan network of congregations in Florida that will address gun violence, voter suppression, systemic racial, economic issues that cause poverty for our families. You may mail checks to us at 57 Reed Street indicating faith in Florida in the memo line, or donate online at www.uutarpon.org. In the Give a Plate section, indicate faith in Florida in the comment line. And donations will be accepted through the last day of August. Immediately following the service today, Nick Carey, is he here? Hi, Nick. Nick will be talking with us about faith in Florida, and it will be held here in the sanctuary so that you don't have to get up and move around and run around. So I'm looking forward to that. And on September 18th is the Helping Hand Potluck, where it's going to support the Minister's Discretionary Fund. As part of it, there will be a Helping Hand show, the reenactment of Clara Barton by our member, Betty Clark. There will be a $10 admission, and all proceeds go to the Minister's Discretionary Fund. And I think that is it. Because of the forum being here, we're going to dispense with joys and concerns this week. We hope you don't mind. Jane, do you want to come up here and say something?